bathroom first before we start.
Seriously?
It's crazy sometimes. It's crazy sometimes in my house.
It's lower than
Now, you having
Yes.
going on?
So is that too. Why am I sitting so low?
I sat down and I
Yeah, why am I sitting so low?
Oh, like you more time? Oh.
This is the crowdest it's been in a
and
long
I was
Okay.
just far from calling in to see I'm not.
Okay.
It hasn't been this crowded in a long time.
Yeah, long time. Long time.
Friday afternoon. High school. College. 3. Okay. Oh, man. A lot of notes pages. Okay. I'm gonna write that down right now. Yep, I'll be there. Okay, let's see what we've got going on here. Oh, all right, are we ready?
I forgot my water today.
Get about 4 in the truck.
Happy news, the brokers just finished the schedule.
Okay, I'm gonna call this meeting to order at 6:32, April 17th, 2019. Let's stand for the pledge of allegiance, please. Who am I gonna pick on today? How about you, young lady? Why don't you lead us? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, ma'am. Miss. Okay, can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Allen.
Here.
Ms. Combs. Here. Mr. Smith.
Here.
Mr. Swayze.
Here.
Mr. Underwood.
Here. Brings us to modification approval of the agenda. I have a motion to modify the agenda. I move to strike 10.02 EEAA because I didn't see it in the public or the board packet. I move to strike 10.03 IKA for the same reason. And then I move to add 10.03 EASI literacy grant at 10.03. Do I have a second?
That I'll second.
Okay,
I may
hold on.
give you 1 second. What do you add?
It's the literacy grant that came in from CDE. They need the paperwork
Yeah.
signed by me,
Right.
which I can't sign it unless we vote to
We
approve it.
vote to approve. It's not in the packet.
Yes. Yeah, that's why it was in the packet.
I just need to confirm something real quick.
Okay.
See if the make a motion to separate the time packet and then put some on the separate.
It's already separated.
Okay.
Which one?
The coaches.
Okay, yes. That's action item.
And I'm good to go.
All right. Do I have any other motions to modify the agenda?
That's yours, I got mine.
Awesome. Hearing none. Call for the vote, please.
Mr. Allen.
Aye.
Yeah, Ms. Combs. Aye. Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Swayze.
All right.
Mr. Underwood.
Aye. Brings us to student performances, presentations. Do we have one?
We have two.
We have 2?
Would you like to?
Whoa, we gotta draw a quota there somewhere.
Let's just say they're incredibly nervous, but they're going to be awesome.
Okay.
It's great practice.
Who's up first? Is the live feed going?
So,
Sweet.
so I've had the greatest experience being able to go to UCCS with our students, with Mrs. Conklin. And we actually had them working on putting together their video to present to you today. We have two of the groups that put these together here so they can present to you. So I'm going to start with Val's group. They're going to come up and present. They have a video for you as well. They should be under 5 minutes each.
Could you remind us what this program is, what grade level, why we're doing it?
Okay, it's a pre-collegiate program. It's based on problem-based learning, so it helps them be able to incorporate everything they're learning at school into a local problem in their community or nationally. Right now, it's community level. So it's for their school. They had to come up with a problem that they saw in the school and come up with ways to fix it. They had to interview different teachers or students, other staff members. They also interviewed college professors. One of the other things that they were able to do is use like their math skills to develop surveys to give to people to see what their beliefs are on like sport equipment and different areas that they were looking at. One of the groups is doing recycling. They really pushing for us to do better in recycling for the school district. We have a group working on sports equipment, another group for curriculum, and I can't remember. There's so many, but they've really pushing themselves hard. One of the best things I love is it's allowing them to have a say in their school district, and it's also allowing them to see that they have a voice. The best thing is helping them with their speech so that they don't as much as I do, and hopefully they'll do amazing, in the future. But that's where we're at.
So part of this is feedback, which is saying is our partnership with Public Tire Factory and Literacy Readiness. These seventh graders will be partnered with UCCS's eighth graders in a new class of seventh grade, and in the 1-2, and then ninth grade, 10th grade, and 11th. We're trying to thread 7th through 11 with our partnership and getting the collegiate experience at this level and opening doors. So this is our first trip in opening doors, which we do besides after high school.
Awesome.
So, Val?
Hi, my name is Lydia. We have two more members that are missing. Their names are Yadira and Bryn Rose. Our project is based on sports equipment and what we could do to fix it.
It might be coming through the LCD projector. The volume.
I hear something. So, tell us, summarize. You're in the spotlight.
Two questions that we asked a couple of the middle schoolers were, what do you think we can improve in the sports equipment, and how did it affect the way that we play against other players? Middle school responses and high schoolers as well were always that they were always too baggy and they were easy to pull, or they just didn't fit them right. It was always that they were too baggy or didn't fit them right.
For the
So-
uniforms?
Yes.
It sounds like the concern that was addressed mainly was that.
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
We also interviewed a couple of coaches. Mr. Portwood, the track volleyball coach, he said that he thought that the sports equipment was okay. did think that a couple of the sports equipment was, again, too baggy, or it just didn't fit us right. They thought it affected us because it was maybe a little bit too uncomfortable for us to play, if they're too bothered on this fitting us rather than playing the actual game.
So I didn't play a lot of sports growing up. I mean, is that something going through your mind when you're actually out there on the court or the field? You're thinking about that? Oh, I don't feel comfortable in my uniform, and that's distracting you from your performance? Interesting.
It has to
Okay.
do something with your confidence
And actually-
as well, correct?
If I may be permitted, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong, but as a basketball coach, if you're wearing something baggy, it is absolutely okay to understand somebody's going to pull on your jersey, shorts, and when you're down in the paint. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so part of the issue is, if you're not aware of it, you will be very soon, because this stuff really happens. Would that be correct in supporting what you're saying?
Yes. What they said behind camera, they didn't say it while we were videotaping them. They said it was like too baggy in the armpits, like.
And that's where you get
That's where
grabbed
it
a
became
lot.
too loose. They said that everything else was
Right. So what a great point. Good job, ladies.
All right, so then, what's next?
Our solution was to collaborate with the Booster Club and maybe do some bake sales or talk to the principal or something to maybe do some sort of fundraiser at a school to try to get money to buy some new jerseys or sports equipment like basketballs and volleyballs.
Awesome.
You guys, are you presenting this at UCCS as well?
Yes.
When is that?
This Friday.
Okay. Can you send that in?
I have
Okay.
just one more question. The presentation that you're presenting is that uniforms across the board, or is it specific now with the hope it grows? Who is your presentation addressing right now? Everybody?
Yeah,
Okay.
mainly middle schoolers.
Okay, so it's addressing middle school. Thank you very much. I love it. Thank you.
They were complaining, the boys were complaining about football uniforms. They're all so baggy. The little guys, their pants were falling off. We had white belts, and that's some of the guys I know were complaining about that.
Also, in our
Awesome. That's all I was trying to figure out is
Yeah, I know.
who for sure is being addressed, because if it needs to be addressed somewhere else.
Awesome.
Do uniforms change with style? Because, they used to be really tight, and they got really baggy, and now they're coming back to being a little tighter.
Sometimes it changes on
I-
what professionals do.
Right.
If you look at the jerseys of football players, they're so tight you can't grab hold of them.
Well, and the same thing holds true. I mean, look at the uniforms Magic Johnson wore versus the uniforms Allen Iverson
Right.
wore. So it does, I guess, fluctuate. The necessity and the truth of what you're saying remains the same. Tight jersey, it's harder to pull. Loose jersey, it's easier.
So I thought you guys were going to come up here and ask us for more money. So I think it's great that you're trying to solve this problem outside the box. And good luck to you. And, there's always that backup. But, so anything else?
Also in our presentation, we included some pictures of the gym equipment and how it's ripped or torn, and the jerseys are ripped, torn, the paint's coming off, and we kind of listed out problems.
Okay. Well, I mean, I would love, since we had our technical malfunction, I would love for you guys to send that to us, or maybe post it
We
somewhere
have a
where we can get to
solution
it.
now. I've received the video, so if we hit it at the same time, you'll hear the sound here with the microphone.
Oh,
and
You
the
have to
video
unplug.
up there.
Okay. It came unplugged.
Did it?
yeah, should unplug down there.
Your LCD projector in your computer.
You're trying to stop us from seeing it.
Just tell me when you're ready and it goes on, then I'll click at the same time. By the way, great choice in shirts for tonight.
I know, I like it.
Thank you.
before I came to a board meeting. It's unusual for me, so I'm not in a hurry.
Can you press the on button now? Just give it a go again. See. Oh, yeah. And if you put your hand in front of where the light comes out, you can see if there's anything.
Oh, Chuck's gonna fix it. Oh, hey, there we go.
I'm ready. You just say go and I'll click.
I don't think it's working.
It's just really, really quiet. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just send it to us. That'd be great. I want to thank you guys for coming up here and getting and telling us all about that. I think that's good stuff.
Way to improvise video not working. Good job.
Yeah. And you weren't shy, too shy. You did good.
So here's your learning experience. Best laid plans don't always work out. And you learn how to punt and still make it work, which you did. You talked to us still yet. So if it happens again on Friday, you've practiced it once, you know how to get through it still.
Have y'all enjoyed being a part of the program?
Yeah, it was a very good experience.
Did y'all enjoy going to the college? And nice.
Be part of the program next year?
Yes.
That's the plan.
So instead of was a good experience, it is a good experience.
Yes.
Yes, as it continues.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. And next, yes. Oh, look at that. Solving problems.
I'm Allison Rogers, and our group has 3 other members, but one of them is moving. It's Emma Grove, Emily Titus, and Shelby Newton. And our group is trying to improve the recycling in our school.
Awesome.
Nice. What was your name, hon?
Allison Rogers.
Thank you.
Fred Rogers is her great-grandfather. Mr. Rogers, I didn't get my joke out.
Probably because it wasn't that funny.
Fred Rogers,
Anyway,
an educational figure.
There's an outlet under the table, right here.
Have you enjoyed the program? Yes.
what do you like most about it?
I like how we get to go to the school a few times, and we get to do project-based learning.
We appreciate everyone's patience.
Yeah. All right, so you're gonna have to do the same thing. You have to tell us what's going on in the video.
So for the first interview, we interviewed Mr. Brandon, I believe was his name, and he is part of the recycling group at UCCS. And we asked him how the group like gets the money from and how it started. And he said how we can improve on the school and what we can do to raise the money. And he said we can do fundraisers and talk to our principal and school board to help us. And we also asked a few students how they think the recycling is. And we interviewed the principal and vice principal about how they think that we can improve on our project and the school recycling. And they told us that we could use, I don't remember. They told us that we could ask for people's information that they know on recycling, and that we can ask the people that we know if they can help us fundraise, and we can build like a garden and get bins for the school and become a club that helps with recycling and takes it to the recycling area.
Great, so you need money for basically the recycling containers, the bins. Awesome. Anything else that you would like to add?
Our group has been thinking about getting personalized water bottles instead of using the disposable plastic ones, so that way we can save on using plastic and using less money.
That's a great idea. It's a great idea. You know, billions of those things end up in landfills every year. Anything else, ma'am? No?
So, I got a question. You need bins, correct? Have you come up with a thought process or a possible solution to how you're going to get those bins?
We've thought about asking for donations from different companies and stores such as Home Depot and Lowe's. So that way we can put them into the cafeteria and maybe in front of the school.
So is somebody drafting a plan for that at all, or has anybody looked into the process to get anything from Lowe's or Home Depot?
I sort of have. I haven't been able to do much research, but I've sort of started to.
Great.
Do you find that you have the support to implement the plan? As far as the adult support you need at the school? Good.
Would you be open to one suggestion? I'm sure you probably already thought of it, but if not, as I look around, I see a lot of ranchers in our community. A lot of ranchers have 50-gallon barrels around their property that would work awesome for recycling containers for absolutely nothing but asking. I wonder if we could ask some local ranchers if they would donate 1 or 2 containers each, and you may be surprised with how many containers you end up with, and it didn't cost a penny. Just a thought.
Then it's just trash bags after that.
Well, you did great.
Yes,
Way to
thank
come
you.
here by yourself, being the only
Yes.
member of your group.
And work through the technical challenges. That's awesome. Thank you. Mr. McNerney, are you done? You've had 2. Are you sure you don't want another one? Okay. All right. Brings us to open forum. Do we have anyone signed up for open forum? Okay. Ms. Peach, how are you this evening? Good to see you.
It's always a pleasure seeing you.
I'm Monica Peach. I'm just here to talk about doing a change for the cheer stipend. the way it gets paid. Currently, it's just one stipend for both seasons, and I would like to see if we could get it changed to 2 seasons. I'm going to give you some reasons. I'm not going to hold you up. I just want to give you just a brief. One is cheer practices just as much as volleyball, and then cheer also practices just as much as basketball. We do practice Monday through Friday, because if they're in both, if they're in volleyball, then I need to share them, so then Mondays are when I get the whole team together. So we actually do an additional day of practice. The same thing with basketball. If I need to share, then I will hold a Monday practice to have the whole team together. So there's another example of us doing additional work there. We also do additional work doing locker decorations, decorating, getting things together for that, doing routines. We're going to do routines. So we essentially do work just as much as if I work just as much as Mr. Allen, as Mr. and Ms.
As the basketball coach,
Right.
I would agree.
Yeah.
We
Right.
share.
So instead of just being paid once, it would be nice if you could get paid twice as a both season, a winter season and a fall season, instead of just once.
So I only have one question for you.
Go ahead.
Did you talk to the AD and the principal about all this?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any other?
Because I'm assuming that if they agree that we're going to see it in the budget kind of a thing, and
Yeah, I just wanted to give you guys
Your reasoning
something-
behind it.
reasoning behind it, yes.
We appreciate it.
okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much. Anyone else? Irene, anyone else? Okay, awesome. Brings us to 6.0 consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve this consent.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Call for the vote, please.
Aye.
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 Aye. Brings us to 7.01. Superintendent comments, sir.
Yes, first on my list here is that, as everybody in the state of Colorado is aware, the last 24 plus hours, there was a credible threat out there from somebody who lived in Florida. Every single district in the Denver metro area going up to Fort Collins, actually up to Fort Collins and over to Greeley, were closed today because of the credible threat. There's no longer a threat. However, there have been a number of superintendent phone calls with the FBI and other law enforcement, and we have a common communication that we're going to be putting out. So later this evening, you'll see something that'll come out as an easy message to everybody to let them know there is information on the website that'll have communication to everybody. But basically, just to reiterate, it's interesting because KKTV emailed me long before I even heard something was going on, wanting to know, what's going on, what are you guys doing about it? And my response was, we're always in a lockout situation, so we weren't had to do really anything different. We just became a little extra vigilant, making sure that we're aware of the guests who are coming around, and we're always aware of the surroundings. And Rebecca's here, and I'm trying to see if anyone else is here in terms of who go outside and help monitor on the playground. Even if we see a suspicious vehicle, car, somebody walking, they do a great job of informing the office. So we're already out there, but just so everybody knows, even though this person didn't show up in our area, we were still in a position where we felt comfortable enough we at least could have been able to protect and respond if needed. Very sad, though, but that's what happened there. We have been in this testing mode, so PSAT and SAT and now CMAS. Because of what happened today, the state has extended those deadlines a couple of days for everybody. We don't necessarily need it, but it actually is nice to have that extra couple of days because where The work is always nice to have is when all the testing is done, you have to package everything up and get it out. So at least that aspect of it all gets to have some extra time to get completed. As far as what I can tell and what I'm hearing from staff, our students are engaged. They're completing the work. And we're very hopeful that because of that, we'll see an increase just by nature of focusing and putting best effort. Plus, whatever we've been doing in education this year with our kids. We have already had that sense that our kids are going in the right direction. We already know last year, I think we all agree that the fires were a big part of what was the interruption for our kids. And I'm not going to guarantee we're going to see phenomenal increases because you can't do that because it's up to students and how well they take the test in terms of their attention and so forth and not being overly nervous. But I would be very surprised if we don't see an increase across the board. Related to that, on May 12th, I believe is the date, is when the commissioner for the state of Colorado of Education, as well as one of the state school board members will be here to visit our district. I asked them to come out immediately when they were trying to tell us that fires don't impact kids, and we should have seen a bigger drop. But their schedules didn't allow it to happen until May. So I will be taking them on a field trip. I'll be talking to the board member more to see who can come along, and I've already talked with Chief Tatum, and Carl already has some maps for me to show them so they can have an idea about the widespread nature of this fire, because I still think they need to be educated. And I'm going to see how they respond to what happened today with all the schools closed. If any schools say this impacted our testing, and if they give them that. I'm not going to be mad at those folks, but it will be awfully disheartening for us to say, one day, yet we had multiple days of fires. But maybe, if anything, we can educate them so they will have that kind of understanding for other scenarios in the future.
Hey, Dr. Schmidt, not to
Yes.
interrupt, but for what it's worth, I have video of what it was really like while the fire was happening.
Sure.
I'm more than willing to volunteer
Make that
all
available.
of that
Yeah.
to help prove our case.
Yes.
So
Let me double check on my calendar. I will get this out to you guys for sure. I'm going to go into my calendar and let you know before I move on to the next item. Second then. It is May 10th. My apologies. May 10th. And they are going to be here from 10 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. Yes, absolutely. And as I shared with you guys before, what I'm envisioning is I can put them in one of our district vans, kind of put them in a confined space so we can talk to them and give them a short little tour. We drive between Prairie Heights and go to the other building, and there's that High Point on Hammer Hill. Coming back down, I think it's a great spot to stop and you pretty much say, the horizon you see to your right, when it looks like there's a shadow, but then it goes, that's where the fire was to our south, and you go all the way that way, you'll see the north, and everything you see in front of you was on fire. And then we're going to stop and show them the new house that the framing has started, at the bottom of the first hill to the right, where two families were able to get mobile homes. And then we'll stop at the home where we had 3 students that totally lost their home. And that's where I told you I'll do my best to see if I can say it politely, but yet directly about, so you expected these 3 kids to come back the next day to school and perform phenomenally well. And I'll try to be polite about it. But
I imagine you've been working on it for a while.
I have been.
All I know is if I show up, if I can show up because of work, I'm bringing a roll of duct tape. Because they don't want to hear from
I'm
me.
not bringing them.
Well, they need to learn about some of those things. Monica brought it up. I gave the task to our AD to come up with and evaluate our extra pay, performance pay schedule, that's coaches and stipends, and compare with others. I think we found 1 or 2 in there compared to other districts where we can make some modifications. That is coming to you guys next month for approval. And then you'll have a second reading in June for that. So just know that's coming, and what we do, last time we did it was we compared to what everybody else in the area is doing, and we try to be at or a little above the average. That is part of our retention as well, retention for coaches. So, and that's what we'll be doing process-wise. Tonight, we'll be doing a process that's required in order to receive some funds. We received a $107,000 literacy project grant from Prairie Heights. It is about a 12-month grant, and what it's going to end up doing is going to end up allowing us to have a K through 12 written literacy curriculum that also has curricular aligned units to the new standards that are implemented in the 2021 school year. And it also pays for backfilling all of our literacy materials we have here at the elementary. When we purchased the program, not all the pieces were given to us, and so it purchased to backfill everything I'm missing. It also purchases all of the reading intervention materials that they have to align with that program as well. And so that's pretty exciting news. It also pays for our teachers who will be part of the writing to actually be paid to do that writing work. So that's pretty exciting news. That's awesome. School Finance Act draft finally came out last night. And in the past 3 years, we've received $30 million in rural funding. In this particular bill, it's $25 million in rural funding, which is approximately 17% reduction from what we're used to seeing. We also will see a $102 million budget stabilization buy-down. We used to call it the negative factor. It's the money that the state said, here's how much we owe you by Constitution, by Amendment 23, et cetera, but we don't have money. So here's how much we could really afford, and that gap was called a negative factor. They didn't like it, so they thought it was a good idea to call it the budget stabilization factor, not realizing that the acronym for that is BS. But they did. It wasn't us, it was the legislators. And so it's reducing that BS factor even more, which means we receive a little more funding to try to get closer to where we should be. The other thing which is really good for us is adding $25 million to the Tier B special ed funding. The federal government is supposed to fund states at a certain level for SPED, which they don't even come close to what they're supposed to. I think it's roughly between 15 and 17% of where they're supposed to be. So what ends up happening, Tier 1 is your traditional SPED. I've got one disability, it's pretty mild and moderate, and so there is some reimbursement for that, but not a whole lot. Tier B is to provide more money for reimbursement for kids who have multiple disabilities or higher level disabilities. And so we have some students like that, so it just means that we could see some additional funds for reimbursement for our Tier B special ed kids, which is very nice. And when it comes out as a bill, just for everyone to know, that doesn't mean that's how it ends. And so that's why I emailed our staff. It's probably a good idea to put on our website just who our legislators are who represent us. And I encourage that if you have an opportunity to call or email, that you let them know that you support this rural money, this rural funding. This year it's $96,000. So without it, there are some things we can't do. There's some staff we can't have. So keeping that is very important. The buy down, that gives us some more money and it puts us back to where the state says you really should fund education. So advocating, yes, you need to continue buying down that gap. And then finally, the last one around special ed funding, we definitely need to be able to continue to provide that reimbursement for those high need kids who have higher expenses. So I just encourage everybody to make those contacts and help us so that our funding doesn't go in the direction we don't want it to go and that it ends up impacting our programming. But I will say, as my last note on that, is our staff, though, they are so dedicated that even if we had the drop in how much our funding is, I can guarantee you our staff is not going to work any less. They're going to still continue to work incredibly hard. So kudos to them, even though in the environment of potentially losing funding. Their spirits are still such that they're going to do their best for your kids. So thank you to staff on that.
Yes, sir. Okay. More comments. I guess we'll start over here, Mr. Swayze.
Nope, everything's good.
Nope, everything's good.
Everything's good. Love it here. Love our teachers. They're great people.
Okay. That's it.
That's it.
Mr. Allen?
The only thing that I have to say is my caught doing Garda Ward goes to Miss Mickey and her team for putting together this presentation tonight. Vanna V, outstanding job, as well as Miss Allison. Wonderful job. I think that's awesome, and I love everything about what you're doing.
Ms. Combs?
I just want to say that it's a very stressful time, especially for the staff. I know evaluations happen this time of year, all the testing happens this time of year, and then you have crazy kids who are looking forward to summer 2 months in advance. So to all the staff, thank you for showing up for our kids every day. Thank you for hanging in there during stressful times, during budget, during evaluations. Just know that you are appreciated, and if you ever need any support, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.
Mr. Smith?
Kind of echo on that. I think that right now it's a tough time for teachers and kids just because testing is so anxious and there's so much anxiety around that. So thank you for all you're doing, for supporting the kids and helping them through that, because it is kind of a tough time. And then also, as Ms. Danielle said, the evaluation process. And it's always an interesting time of year in education right now. It's interesting how all the metro districts decided to not have school, and they kind of turn their nose to us when we have things like snow, ice, tumbleweeds, and all these other problems. So I think they're going to get an understanding when the CDE staff do come down and look at the expanse of our district. Because when I talk about our district and I talk to people, they're like, where are you at? And I said, oh, we're in the southeastern corner of El Paso County. And they're like, well, that's nothing but pasture for ours. I said, exactly. I said, we're the largest bus route district in the state, or in the El Paso County, if not the state, and then one of the smallest ones, and we do support our kids and do a great job. And that's hats off to everybody from bus drivers, administrators, teachers, paras, everybody. I just thank you. Hats off to you for the hard work you put in. And it is recognized, and it is very much appreciated. And then for the parents that are here, thank you for supporting your district that you live in, and your kids go to this district, because I'd venture to say there's probably a third of this district with eligible kids that for whatever reason don't come to our district. And if they did come to this district and became part of what happens within these buildings, I think they'd realize, wait a second, I'm missing something. But that's kind of our community, and our world, our global community is that way too, unfortunately. But thank you for all you do, and just encourage you and continue doing what you're doing, and thank you.
Thank you. So, don't want to be a Debbie Downer, so I'll skip my first comment. So my second comment is I want to, for those of you that are unaware, we, for a bunch of reasons, we alternate in 6-month blocks where we have our board meetings. And this is the first meeting this year at Prairie Heights, and we'll be here for 6 months, if I remember the schedule correctly. So, big turnout. I don't know if this is an anomaly or if I can expect this every time here at Prairie Heights, but thanks for coming out. It shows that you're interested and you care, and you're hopefully supporting the district. So thank you. All right, that brings us to 8.0 DAC update.
Good evening. For those that don't know me, I'm Brandy. I'm the DAC president, DAC chair, whatever you want to call me. We went over the proposed budget. As of right now, we don't have any questions. We like the way things are looking.
Good.
So that's setting good. We talked about the proposed school calendar for next year, and the only thing that the parents that sit on DAC and had questions about was why we were going back to just one day for parent-teacher conferences, because we once again got rid of the evening parent-teacher conferences. And Ms. Conklin said that some of the teachers had concerns because they didn't feel that they had enough parents coming in for those evenings. But walking around and looking for the ones that signed in, because I come in later in the evenings, most of them had 5 or 6 parents that signed in. So to me, we were getting the participation, at least on the Hanover side for that. I don't know what we were doing over here. But one solution that we came up with, instead of doing the early mornings, doing like 10 to 7 on that one day, so that it still had a couple later hours, so that those parents that worked could still make it into parent-teacher conferences and those teachers were just doing one day versus doing a full 12-hour day. So that was one solution that we possibly came up with for the calendar on that.
Just make sure you saw that right. It's the same design as we had this year. So it's an early release with evening conferences followed by a whole day of conferences without students.
Right, but the conference hours doesn't leave conferences so that parents that work can make it in to do conferences. If parents
It
work
should
a normal
have been
job,
before, but we'll take that under consideration.
Right.
Make sure we communicate that.
that was one of the
Good
big
feedback.
concerns. Another thing that we discussed was the survey that came out was a generalized survey, and those parents that have students at both schools couldn't answer the questions openly because they could really only answer the questions for one school or the other. They couldn't answer it for both schools because of the way the questions were set up, and they were only given one survey for the entire district. So if you had students at both schools, you were answering for either one school or the other. I have, of course, two over at the junior high and high school level, and the high schoolers were able to answer the surveys for themselves. And a few of the high schoolers were honest with me and said that they didn't fill them out, they had their friends fill them out. So you were getting one survey, you were getting multiple surveys filled out by one student. So of course that didn't give us a clear explanation either.
Right.
So there's kind of a 50-50 on, I don't know how we can better escalate that other than, like I said, two surveys so that multiple houses, so a household that has multiple students can fill it out correctly
Okay.
is a concern.
Ms. Brandy, is there a plan or idea to try and address that, the issue you just said, one student and their friends, and now we're getting 5 surveys for one student?
One thing that we brought up is possibly, especially for the junior high and high school level, is for them to do it during their advisory class, because then it is handed to them in advisory, it is filled out right there in advisory, handed right back. So that way it's pretty much done as a test. Here you go. And they don't have time or the ability to hand it to somebody else to be done.
And still keep in on it
Right.
if they want.
Which student survey are we speaking about?
It's a district survey.
We did a parent one and a staff one. We haven't done a student survey.
It was the parent one,
So kids were filling out the parent one?
the high school students, some of the high school students.
During our visit with the teachers, had them survey, they turn it in as they walk out the door. Have parents
Conference
do it
time.
there, yeah, during conferences.
Right, that would be a
Let's
great,
have our conferences, you do a survey, tell us how you feel about everything.
I like that idea.
Stop
That's
it
a good
mailing it, stop this. other
right, that
stuff.
would be a great
'Cause
time to do
I never
it.
even got a survey till I complained, and I've got 4 kids in here, so.
Thank you for sharing that.
You got one of mine.
Were they both filled out already?
Well, and like you said, either have them hand it back to the
Yeah.
teacher or hand them drop it in a box up by the office, so that way they don't feel like it's the teacher seeing exactly what they said.
Yeah.
That would be a great idea. Another thing we discussed is computers are setting on Windows 7, which is getting ready to expire. And they need to be upgraded to Windows 10. The downfall to that is you cannot download Windows 10. It has to be done off a CD. So we're going to have an expense where we've got to figure out how that money is and where that money is coming from. Of course, right now, DAC has no solution for that, but it's going to be a huge district technology issue.
My apologies.
We were also told about 2 different things that is technology related. One is called a CTE training, which is Career Technology Education. The goal is to get 4 teachers over at the junior high, high school level trained in that for next year. With having that training, there's actually 15 different levels of certifications, basically, that they'll be able to teach kids in. Some of those are specific skills like health science, business, financing, information technology. basic manufacturing, so it's not all college level. It's basic level stuff too, stuff that our district doesn't offer right now that we'll be able to bring into the district. Also next year, we're going to be able to bring in the STEM program, STEAM program, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. One of the big things that he was able to tell us, like our superintendent was talking, PSATs and SATs have gone on. We had 100% attendance this year
Nice.
for both. So that was something that was very proud of over at the high school level. And that is all I have today.
Awesome. That's a lot.
Yeah,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you.
Great information.
Any questions for Brandy? Okay. All right, that brings us to 9.01, 2017-18 Financial Audit Report. Sir?
Good evening, board members. The audit report I gave is a clean, unmodified opinion. Some of the financial highlights for the audit. General fund balance went up $214,000 to a total of $636,000. Your fund balance represents approximately 2 months of expenditure. The table reserve went up to $110,000. Total revenues for 2018 went up about $350,000, of which $77,000 was from property taxes, $103,000 was from state equalization, and other state funding, which is some of the grants I think Grant was talking about. That went up $98,000. Still a segregation of duties problem here. Still got just, for the most part, one person doing everything, sometimes two. That seems to be sporadic because people come and go. I arrived on the audit October 15th, only to find within hours that there was no revenue recorded and the cash accounts were not reconciled all year. And I don't know where you stand with it right now. So I had to pull off in October. I think I came back after Thanksgiving and worked a little bit, came back at the end of December and worked on the smaller funds. Your business manager got the smaller funds done, and I didn't get to the general fund, which is the big operating account, until about mid to late January. So with that being said, there was, throughout this whole process that I went through, there was a few things I noted in the letters that I think you guys got. While testing the expenditures, I randomly select 25, and I look for account code, misclassifications, approval process, receipts, and all that. Roughly 2 out of the 25 either had an approval process or supporting backup. That's almost a 10% error rate. The Visa bill, on the light side, on the better side, the Visa bill that was selected, I had 100% of its backup, and that's almost generally unheard of. Anytime I grab a Visa bill, there's always, out of the 200 receipts that you need to have with it, there's always a chunk missing. So the problem areas that the board and the senior manager need to address is the bank accounts and revenues are recorded in a timely fashion. The Board of Education should be receiving not only just accounts payable and payroll reports, but you should be receiving revenue reports to show budget and actual. And then also someone needs to make sure these bank accounts are reconciled on a monthly basis. You can't let this go forever, because it's a ton of work. It's a ton of work. One food service invoice was overpaid, resulting in a refund to the district. The accounting software, when you guys converted from the old software to the new software, it wasn't calculating the para contribution for the pensions correctly, both the employee and the employer portion. And I'm not quite sure when that was discovered. I mean, some employees had nothing withheld out of their paycheck, the 8%, if you will. And somebody should have noticed that. I mean, paycheck goes from XYZ one month and it jumps up $800 or whatever it is. You should know. Someone should ask a question. So I still think the para thing is an ongoing problem as far as not the calculation, because your business manager figured out through talking with the software that there's some boxes that you had to X that didn't convert over from the old system. But I do think there's probably some reconciliation that needs to go on there. Who was off and who was on, as far as being correctly calculated. I'd like to see the payroll registers with original signatures or initials and dated. Same thing with accounts payable registers. I know, Ed, I see you in there looking through all that, so that's something that, I know it's being done. But with the payroll and stuff, someone needs to sign off on that stuff. Probably Grant should. The only other thing is the POs. This has always been a problem here and in some other districts, is these electronic signatures drive me nuts because everyone can just sit there and click enter. I have no idea who enter is. Who's enter? Right? So a lot of times most of the time it has Grants, but it could be the business manager, it could be somebody else who's running accounts payable who's approving this stuff. So I mean, if you can't isolate that hitting enter by just one person who has a password protected computer, then go back to just initials. Then I know somebody at least looked at it. The catch-all is Ed takes a look at all this stuff too, so.
Right.
But that's also like a pre-approval process with the POs. So that's.
What do you see, so my wife works for Douglas County, everything she receives electronic signature. What do you think they're doing that we could be doing? Because you're talking about a mass number of people, so
Well,
signatures.
like at the BOCES,
laborious.
they used to, whoever ran accounts payable, they were not allowed to get on there and approve POs. Only certain people, the executive director could, the supervisor of that particular department could, the CFO could do that kind of stuff, but the accounts payable clerk should not be approving that kind of stuff. It should be approved outside of her function.
I know the accounts payable clerk hasn't been, it's been a business person, so
Right.
are you recommending the accounts payable person do it?
No, outside. But I still would like to see, I think the software would do it, but I don't know how you're going to get the software to just say, okay, Grant, only on your computer can you approve POs. If someone else can log on to the system somewhere else, because I know it can happen here, I see it.
In other words, transportation should approve the PO for over there
Yeah,
before it ever comes into Cindy.
yes,
And then Cindy just reads it and reviews it, same as I do.
right.
Okay. Yeah, I've done
And
that
that's
before.
a permissions approval checkboxes inside the system, so.
Right.
Yes,
I'll
and
look into it
to
to
tell you
see.
quite honestly, I don't know how the mechanics works with that, but
Yeah.
it is something that, right now, it just prints your name, and that's not an approval.
No.
It's just like checks. It drives me nuts to go to places where the checks are, it's not here, but at BOCES is one, they have 5 names on a check. Well, it just runs through the copy machine. Who hit enter?
Yeah.
Right?
The IRS pays me with electronic signature. Can I copy those checks? I'm just kidding. Well, thank you. We'll look into that
Okay.
approval thing and make sure that that line is happening.
Okay, and the big thing
I
is the
will.
cash accounts, getting those under control.
Now,
Well, and reconciling para.
Yeah, no, that's an effort. I think it's been fixed, but I don't think it's been reconciled for the problem areas that happen,
Right.
so.
The para.
Geez, so I've been on the board a few years now, and, we were steadily getting better. Now it seems like, we stepped in it.
Who does what? Hang on, I got two comments.
Yeah, different shoes. Yeah.
Okay.
I said it seems, right?
This is the first time.
But, so yeah, we have some challenges opportunities to excel.
Right, absolutely.
All right. Anything else, sir?
Nope, that's it.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. And good choice of yellow tie tonight. The Hornets.
Good perception.
Awesome. Okay, so that brings us to 902 staff.
We're going to discuss this.
Oh, you want to discuss it some more?
Yes.
Oh, please.
So, Mr. Superintendent,
Yes, sorry.
in light of this laundry list of things that need to be improved,
Uh-huh.
what is your plan? Because I'm sure this isn't the first time you've heard of these. What is your plan to get this addressed?
Actually, I didn't know about para because we didn't have that in our exit interview, so that's going to be a conversation. I'll look and see where that is. In terms of our systems, we actually have multiple check sheets that are supposed to be happening. So what I'm hearing is that we're not getting all of those. We have a cover sheet that goes with that. The business manager signs off payables, then me, and then Ed. So, and that's why he comes in. So I'm going to be looking to see where we're missing and not getting all of those coming through. I've already talked to the business office about reconciling, so we're actually reconciled up. So that is currently in place.
So what process do you have in place so that it continues?
Well, of course, it's me monitoring.
Okay. Is there, I know we talked about check sheets in the past.
Yep.
Have those check sheets been developed?
Yes, and that's what I was mentioning, those cover sheets.
Well, no,
We're
no,
just-
actually not a cover sheet, we talked about developing a check sheet so that throughout the year, there was a check sheet, so it became an issue with transactions that were supposed to happen sporadically, but there's not really any
Remember the account movement
account movement.
of funds to account for, like when we had the,
You're speaking back to the time when there was some additional general funds money put into our bond redemption fund?
yes.
Right, but there was some different,
That's
several.
when we had that checklist.
Right.
You know, on or about May 1st, these are the kind of things that should be happening. Go look for these things. October 15th,
Yeah.
on or about, you know,
So
that kind of
what
checklist.
we've done with that is the checklist is actually up on a calendar. So we have a 2-month view calendar that's now in the office. And all those items are counted on the calendar.
Sweet.
So now that we have Google,
Well, the reason why it's there is because at this point in our process, it needs to be like in your face there right now. And then on my office, on my back wall, I have a month-by-month calendar that has also the different things that are due.
I would like to see, I understand your process, but the calendars are gone after 2 months, calendars can be gone, but if you migrate some of that to a Google-type sheet, where the checklist is a Google sheet where it can be looked at, that can also be transposed into a Google Calendar as a task, so that, say, we know we get the check register on the 15th, a Google task can be created on the 20th of every month, so that reconciliation is done. When that reconciliation is done, the business manager would be required to actually check off that they've done it. My concern is we've had these discussions, we've asked you to come up with processes, and we're almost at the same place.
I don't think we're at the same place.
It's very similar, sir, and we need to really, and we,
Is he still here?
I think coming into the modern world and using some electronic checklists that you can share, especially now that we're fully Googleized, and the paper's great too, but that paper sometimes can disappear after it's done, and at least with the Google Sheet type in a Google type format, we can have some tracking back to take that circle back and go, well, what happened in this time? Oh, we had a fire and we bugged out, so we missed that. And at least there's a little bit of,
And so I want to just remind the board as well as the audience.
electronic.
This was an audit of our 17-18 fiscal year that ended June of 2018. And so we have had these procedures in place this year. And so in terms of the para for last year, that's what I need to look into. I never heard that that was the issue. And I can't imagine it wasn't resolved because we would have gotten a report from para. Because they are very tight on all that. So I imagine that has been resolved. So I can tell you right now, the procedures we have are pretty solid, and the plan is in play. It's always hard to get especially at this point in the game, to get an audit in April from what ended 9 months prior. We've had 9 months of a system that's been working, and I know Ed comes in and sees them as well. So I'm very confident that some of those things won't be the same place. What he talked about for last year, we did have 2 individuals who were in the payables, and then this year we started with somebody, and now we have a different person. And part of that determination of the person was making sure you understand that you're staying for a while, and that way we don't have turnover and retraining. Anybody who's worked in the business world knows training, Carrie, you know this too, training individuals of all the different steps is somewhat time consuming. And that ends up being also a human resource expense to us as a district, right, onboarding and so forth. So I feel good where we are right now, but hearing this and hearing what you're asking, I'm going to go ahead and do another double check, make sure, and I'll be doing that on Tuesday of next week because our business team is at the finance conference right now up in Denver. So, and then what I'll do is I'll report back to the board, if not by email, at the next board meeting, so you know what we have, and Ed can also do that as your accountability as well.
Great.
We'll share with you guys.
Awesome, because that gives you time, you can look at what was there, and if we're on track, that's great. But it really, really nice to be able to say, we looked at all this stuff, we're on track, our processes are in place, we'll make a few improvements, and the next audit will be much better.
Yes.
I don't know if Cindy's got it in Google, but I know she has something. Because when I ask her a question, she just brings it right up.
Yeah, Google's such a great product, because you can just move things around and make reports, and it's really, we have the tool, we might as well use it to its fullest.
So I think that's a great segue, or part of that discussion is a great segue for the next thing. Can we move on?
Yes.
Awesome. So 9.02 staff. Oh, sir?
Go ahead.
Oh, you're being wiseacre. Okay. 9.02 staff salary increase plan. So setting the stage. As the superintendent wrote in his cover sheet, we're committed to, and I think I can speak collectively for the board in this regard, we're committed to consistently increasing pay and trying to be as competitive as we can be. And I know that sounds really wimpy, like it's a wimpy conditionalized statement. You want to tell? I'll tell. So we had two prospective employees recently that declined our offer for employment because they were offered substantially more by another district. And the phrase "chase the money." You're always going to have people that chase the money, but you also need to, offer what you can. And one of the ideas that the superintendent came up with was kind of sort of call it a Jello pay scale, where he had more leverage to place people on the pay table than he has now. And I think, in the end, that's going to end up with a lot of people throwing eggs at him, even though he may be playing it straight. So I like the rigidity of the system that we have now. And, I kind of sort of just want to talk to everybody on the board here about, we know we all want to give everybody a step, right? Does everybody agree to that pretty much? We've talked about that the last couple of years. I think we want to try to raise the base, not just for certified or certificated, but also for classified in the future, because we know we have the classified staff table that's being updated to conform with Colorado minimum wage law. So kind of stuck in the middle of that, but we need to look at doing that, I think, personally. I threw out a number. I asked Dr. Schmidt when we were on the phone if he was sitting down before I threw that number at him, and I'm glad he was sitting down. But I'd thrown around the idea of raising the base to 35, 36, something like that.
37, I think.
I might have said 37. Yeah,
Great.
somewhere in that
I love
sentence.
it, but
Okay. But then there's the reality of things. Until 2 weeks ago, or really until this week, we thought that what we were getting from the state was going to be 100,000 or more less than what we got last year. And as
220 to be exact.
well, that was a month ago. It was 220.
Yes.
A couple of weeks ago it was 110. And now we're pretty much even. If what was proposed today or this week in the legislature passes, we're going to be right about where we think we need to be, which does not include raising the base to 35, 36, or 37, or raising our classified staff lowest number on the table to 15, which is an idea I threw out there. So I guess my point in all of this is that we need to think about a comprehensive plan that we as a board, I think, put on paper and commit to. And I think, strategic plan maybe is a little over for what we're talking about, but that kind of an approach, saying that the board is committed to this, and in a 5-year time frame, we want to, assuming we can afford it, get to this level on our base and this level on the classified staff minimum wage kind of thing. And so I just wanted to have this discussion so we can start thinking about it. And I understand that, we're always going to have to be reined in by what the state gives us for money. But it's something we need to think about. And perhaps we need to have a work session, since we are in the middle of budget development, so that superintendent can get in this fancy little spreadsheet and say, okay, so if we want to raise the base to 35, what's that mean? If we want to take the classified pay scale to $15 an hour, what does that mean? And so, because he's got all that in his fancy spreadsheets, and he can just punch in a number and out pops that number, and the number is what we need. Yeah. And so, I guess this is just me saying, please start thinking about this. Probably going to schedule a work session here as part of the budget development process, so that we collectively as a board can decide where it is that we want to go, so that we can be competitive for new hires and make the staff that we already have as happy as we can. You'll have plenty of time at the work session, Terry. This is just a...
I'm just curious as to why you have a pay scale that doesn't go generate from base pay of each teacher.
We do.
When I was hired in Hanover, my pay scale was based on the multiplications as a classified person, still went off of the base teacher's salary. It's a multiplication table.
Yeah, we don't.
When did we switch out to
3 years ago, 5 years
Part
ago?
of that was because of this minimum wage law that came in, which by January 1 of coming up, we have to be at 12. So we have
Right.
to escape
And
that
then
to be able to
if you look at
face
the certificated staff table, it's a same amount as you go down the steps and a predictable
Yeah.
amount as you go to the right. And the classified table wasn't that way. It was really weird. And so we kind of standardized that a few years ago
every
when
year
we
it's
had
the
to
same
make those
rates.
changes for the Colorado minimum wage law. Yeah, we cleaned it up.
Where we left, that's all.
If I'm in this position of it's classified, I know every year I get a
All of this is
7%
kind
raise.
of related. Are we going to
Whereas
then
before it was like I
be
get 1,
putting the cheer stipend and the coaches?
That's all in the pocket, yeah.
Right, that's what I'm asking.
And as long as we do it in a work session, then you guys are free to
Right, that's
to
what I'm
contribute.
trying to clarify.
You may have to abstain when it comes time to vote, but
Absolutely.
you definitely can be part of the
And
solution.
so we're going to look at scheduling that.
I hadn't picked a date, because I wanted to get the idea in your guys' head first.
I'm completely okay with doing a work session.
And
And ahead of that, what I will do is, because we have all of our teacher hires except for one, so I can give you this cell. It's just cells, and it'll tell you how many are in each cell. So then you're right, when you manipulate this, what does it spit out?
Right.
In advance, so if you guys want to manipulate and get an idea of a couple scenarios.
I would love your fancy.
Really what you're saying, Randy, is when we do that, if we adjust, what is the bottom line additional revenue, or where we find revenue in our budget?
Right.
Or a combination.
Right. I mean, okay, this is so totally a joke, but, since the kids are going to be doing such a great job at fundraising for uniforms, maybe we cut back on the athletic budget.
No.
I'm joking. I'm joking. I know I have all these coaches in the audience, and I had to say
And all
that.
the parents of the athletes.
Well, what
You
I'd
can
like
hang them
But,
later.
but no, I mean, there are some things that we may want to look at trading, and that's all part of the budget development process.
Bad enough middle school gets hand-me-down from high school.
I'm
Don't
with you.
try.
I'm with you.
What I'd also
Probably why
like-
the middle school uniforms are
That's
baggy.
why they complain.
What I'd also like to see us do is, we have some innovations that are happening within our district, such as our STEAM and CT. I would like to see us, as we come in our work session, that we come up essentially with, we have a strategic plan for the district. I would like us to have a strategic plan for funding that plan. Because right now, we don't really have that plan. And I had the privilege that the district actually paid for me to go to the CASB Winter Conference. And I got to ask some of the legislature's questions, and I got to listen to it. And if you're not paying attention to what happened in Denver this year, you need to be paying attention. Because they are kids in a candy store. And it is that bad. But there are some things afoot that the state is wanting to equalize education funding. In the grand scheme of things, way back in the day when there was some sanity making place, they set it up so that the state paid 45%, the local district funded the district by 65%. 55, I'm sorry, math wasn't my strong suit. 55. And this was in 1992. And that worked. But that's back when there was a higher tax rate. There were also higher mill levies. The mill levies were standardized. Well, then we had this great idea of let's kind of change things and manipulate them. And now we've gotten to the point where districts such as ours, that's how much is our funding is from the state? Like 83%.
83 comes from the state, yeah.
And 17% comes from our property taxes.
Actually, it's less than that.
Less than that. And that's because
SOTs.
SOT. And that's because in our district, we are mostly a sparsely populated of people. So our rate, just to throw out some numbers, and it's going to change, but our tax rate for residential is 7.2% of your assessed value. For commercial, that rate is 29% of assessed value. So if you are a district that has a lot of commercial property in it, your revenues are so much higher. And if you were to look throughout how the districts fall, when you start to see that equalization, it's because more districts have commercial than districts such as ours, where we're mostly residential. Well, unfortunately, the candy store up in the urban area of Denver, they do not understand that you stand on a hill and look and you see 12 houses and no Walmart. And that's the battle we're fighting with school education funding. That is really what it boils down to. So we need to look at that. But I think as a district, we need to really look at what our strategic plan is and where do we want to be in 5 years. Where do you want us to be as a district? This is your district. I'm your elected representative.
And that's why I want to publicize this work session and get as many from the community
We know
as
where you
possible.
want to be. And then from that, where you want to be, and it's all going to pair to the strategic plan we have, we can come up with a financial strategic plan of where do we have to be funding-wise to be where you want us to be as your district. And that's where the rubber meets the road. And
it's not, and like I said, it's not just teacher pay. It's it's the CT and the STEAM and all the other efforts that we got going on, and just our general ed program and
our wood shop and all the extra, all the things that we want to do.
Athletics and all that stuff.
Athletics.
So
I just want to read the note that I wrote to Randy for transparency. I said, so plan to meet by Board of Education meeting in June, vote second read July, effective beginning first day of school next year. Am I understanding that?
yeah, for our strategic plan part of this, absolutely. I mean, obviously the budget cycle's a little sooner than that, but yeah.
Okay.
But yeah. As far as our
So
the kind of strategic plan for these funding all these things.
What I'm trying to get at is we're having all of this conversation at one time. When could Coach Monica expect to have an answer for her request?
Well, for her request by the time we approve the budget, definitely.
Yeah, you're kind of talking apples and oranges.
Yeah, but
We're talking a strategic plan of moving forward. And you're talking this year's budget.
well, but that's they're linked at the beginning a little bit. Yeah, a little bit.
We're agreeing to meet and talk about this funding. Okay, what's the plan for that so that Coach Monica has a time frame? I'm not referring to strategic plan.
Right, that's the budget process. That's
So
the standard
in the budget
that's
development
what I'm
process,
trying
the
to
budget has
clarify.
to be approved by the end of May, right? June 30. June 30, end of June.
Okay, so really,
So she'll have an answer way before that.
at least by June's Board of Education. That would be finally when we approve it.
I would expect it by the May meeting, because that's first read,
It'll come to the May meeting and.
first read of the budget.
And we may have a temporary, because we have to look, only because we need to look and see who's working this summer to make sure the stipends approve before.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to understand.
It will be here May.
Should be in the May meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I don't, honestly, I don't know what the principal and the AD are planning on bringing forward in that regard. But we'll find out soon. Superintendent can look into it, see if they plan on
I do
doing that.
I think you're right on, Dwight. We do consider the strategic plan, I think you're exactly right on this side, and that is, it'd be nice to have it reported out somewhere, and intentionally part of a budget planning process, so we can say, part of the rationale behind it is not just because staff requests, et cetera,
Yeah.
but we actually say this is addressing this part of our strategic plan.
Right.
And then on the back side, we have something to make sure that we don't forget something. I think it's a.
Well, and there's
very good idea.
a policy, it's in the D sections, that talks about budget priorities that
Yep.
the board has to, maybe it's in the B section. I think it's in the Ds, but, and as part of this, part of this process, I guess, is really to refine that, but refine it so we have more detail. But in that document, it would just be a few bullets, but we'll have this document that we've created, or in that policy, it's just a few
I
bullets.
think that's phenomenal.
So-
That's all I was asking.
Yeah.
That's the purpose of this question, was
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
to ask if I'm understanding.
Yeah, it's actually two
that
processes.
that's what
One is the
we're trying to do.
primary budget, and then thinking strategically about where do we want to be with our spending in 3 to 5 years, because that's important.
No,
Especially as we look
Right.
at how do we want to retain quality teachers, how do we want to recruit? Because the sad part of that is, I went out to look for other districts' pay tables, and evidently they're all being revised, because none of them are posted online. So I couldn't even look at whether we were, where we were at and compare it, because I'm a data guy. I'm going to compare an apple to an apple and a pear to a pear. Every now and then you throw an orange in there, but I want to compare that, and that's where we really got to be at, and that's the hard part, because it's, to be honest, it's not about being fair, but it's about being equitable, and
So,
that's the important thing.
that's all great work session
We
work.
get there.
So I'm going to put it
No,
into
I
this and
think
move on
it-
unless
no,
we have any
absolutely.
more.
Thank
Ed, you haven't
so
really chimed
much.
in.
Can't get word in edgewise with you three. I don't know. Yeah, have you heard Danielle talk yet?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have.
You three. No, I'm good. We can have it tomorrow if you'd like.
Well, that for that.
24 hours. Give them 24-hour notice, thing schedule.
So, yes, sir.
I'm good with it, whenever you
Ma'am.
like.
I'm good.
Okay.
I can make my schedule.
Not the first week of June.
Oh, yeah. Well, we got, I'm sure that's vacation time frame, I don't want to,
I'm gone the
So-
entire month.
well, then we got to do it before June, obviously. Okay. All right, so that brings us to 9.3 through 9.8. So for the public, you don't get these fancy emails from CASB that says, hey, based upon all the legislation that's coming down, these are the changes to policy that you need to do. They sent us an update a week ago, and so 9.3 through 9.8 are all of those recommended changes from CASB to our existing policies, or new policies that we didn't have because they just decided to come up with. So, I'm assuming everyone's had a chance to look through them. Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns?
No, they're fairly boilerplate.
They are all
Yeah.
boilerplate, yeah.
And for the community to know, the main topic is foster
It's
kids.
foster.
Right.
Yeah, foster.
And the main piece is that if a child is in one foster home and moves to another, they can choose to stay at the same school, even if they move to a different foster home, which is part of keeping that stability for kids.
Okay, so if there's no questions, comments, concerns, has anybody out here had a chance to look at them, have any concerns? No? Okay. So if there's no objections, those will move on to second read next month.
Sounds good.
All right. Brings us to 909 EEA. So for those of you not tracking, last month we had an EEAA. Trust me, the E's are really confusing. But EEAA is titled Walkers and Riders, and that's where we get a set. If you live 1 mile from the school, more than 1 mile, you get to ride the bus. If not, you walk. And last month, we decided that we as a board would provide transportation to everyone regardless of how far away they live from school. Yeah, right, inside our district. That's a very important distinction.
Boundaries.
Yeah, because, if I would have left that hanging, somebody from New Mexico would have wanted to come to our school.
We would have been paying for it.
Anyway, so the superintendent found a paragraph in a related policy, EEA, that talked about that distance and requirement. And so he's rewritten that paragraph of EEA to match the changes that we agreed to last month on EEAA. Wait till you get to EEA, or EEA. It's crazy. Anyway, so that's what 9.9 is all about. For those of you that looked at it, it's related to what used to be 10.02. And that 10.0 EEAA, I was going to do it. I've been working 12-hour days. It's crazy. But I will get to it before the next board meeting. So unless there's questions, comments, concerns, we'll move that forward to second read next month. Ed, I'm looking in your direction. You good?
No, it's good.
Okay. All right. That brings us to 10.01, comprehensive policy reviews, or review, the remaining I policies, second read. Do I have a motion to approve the I policies?
I so move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Awesome. Okay, so again, I don't know how many people here have been keeping track of things. We started a comprehensive policy review 15 months ago, and we've got 3, if counting the I's, we have 3 sections left, I's, G's, and J's. So we're going to finish I's this month, and then Dr. Schmidt and I will rock, paper, scissors to see whether or not G or J goes next month. And then the month after that, it'll be whoever wins or loses Rochambeau, with the goal of being completely done by the June board meeting, so all these policies can be effective July 1st of 2019. And all that being said, any questions, concerns? This is second read for these, so I can't imagine that there's
The
any.
date on them was all for next week.
Yes, the date. Remember when I first made these policy changes, we hadn't talked about them being effective July 1. So once you approve them, once we approve them, and I go and accept the red lines, I will change the effective date to July 1st. Any
We're
other?
going to do an approved and effective, right?
Yes, approved. It'll be approved today
Awesome.
and effective July 1st.
But it had canned approved date for next week.
Yep.
Look at your calendar.
I was doing like 5 of these an hour. This is crazy. Ed, are we good?
We're good.
Awesome. Tag, you up? No good on the eyes?
Good.
Everybody down here?
Yep, we're good.
Awesome. Call for the vote, please.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye. Brings us to, since we got rid of 10.2, we're at 10.3, the literacy grant. Do I have a motion to approve the EASI literacy grant?
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. I'm going to let you handle this discussion there, Dr. Schmidt.
Okay. So they gave us this grant, they said everything was great, and then they said, oh, by the way, we need you to fill out this EASY, it's an acronym. They try to make it sound like it's easy, it's not. This EASY
I looked
app.
at it.
So then we can actually give you the money. So I filled it out, and at the very end, there's something called a transmittal form. It's just, you guys have a copy, pretty much just saying, yes, we're aware of what this is, and we're aware of what the grant's purpose is, and what the outcomes will be. And so I gave you a summary as well as a copy, a screenshot of what's on the budget screen in the EASY app, so you can see the $107,000.
Awesome. Now, isn't this the like, we voted to apply for this grant a few months ago, right? Is this the
Right.
one that we voted on?
We've been made aware of it. This is the
by the way, Grant?
commissioners, what's that?
This was our, what I want to say is, this is our alternate award for something else, right? Because we had got denied and you were like, wait, we need help, and they said, oh, we got this in our pocket for you kids that didn't.
Yes, and it all stems back to that.
Right.
Fire.
To the fire.
The
So we didn't actually
Patrols.
apply for this one, it was just kind of our consolation grant, I should
There
say.
you go, it's the consolation
Consolation.
prize.
Yeah.
You know, there is a joke just hanging out there, but I'm going to leave that one.
That's why I jumped.
And that's the positive, so when Steve Durham comes, I'm not saying the commissioners are our enemy, but we're just disappointed in her choice. Steve Durham has always been an advocate for us.
Right.
So, just in case people see us walking around and you have an emotion you might feel.
And if I'm carrying a bat behind my back, please come jump me.
It doesn't go to Steve, because he actually really pushed to create the consolation prize for us.
That's good.
Nice.
Okay, questions, comments, concerns? Call for the vote, please.
Aye.
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 Aye. Brings us to 10.04, instructional support materials purchases. Do I have a motion to approve 10.4?
I'll make a motion to approve 10.4.
Second?
I'll second.
Awesome. And again, over to you, Dr. Schmidt.
When we got the audit and we saw that we had $210,000 that we hadn't spent last year, and moving into this year, adding the fund balance, I posed to the teachers and staff, what are some things, since we try to build our fund balance, but at the same time, we're not in the business of always saving money. And so if we had this additional money, what could we say for staff, what do you need that would really help your programming to be a little bit better, since we have some funding? And so it was put out to staff, we got feedback from staff, and what you have is our variety of things that came to us. And in addition, we put in that category the funding for the STEAM program, the startup funding, the $15,000 to get that rolling. So what you have before you, first I started doing the whole thing in one list, and I thought, let me break out the technology so you can see that versus instructional materials. And so you can see the two instead of all combined. And also I have the location as to which site is requesting for these things. In the end, it comes out to be just under $75,000 total dollars. At first, it was like, that's a big number, but at the same time, I brought it forward because I would recommend it. The staff is asking for it, and if we're trying to do what we can for our staff, part of that is not just salary. Satisfaction also comes from, do I have the supplies and materials I need to deliver what I need to deliver to kids?
Did you get a good response rate from the staff?
I'd say it's a pretty reasonable response rate. Yeah, I can't give you a percentage off the top of my head. And some of the responses we put into a wish list category because it was beyond this. And so we have that out there, but that wish list can't be addressed until we're funded at a significantly different level.
Right.
Perfect example, our two modulars out here, neither of them have bathroom or running water. That was a request.
The art room doesn't have running water?
We have running water and bathrooms in our two newer ones, but not in the very original ones that were here. It'd be great. Part of it is you could tap in, but as you guys, it's not expensive as well, but you're talking about at least $10,000 for a water tap for a drain and then water supply. It's probably going to be more than that. So I digress a little bit, but I want to share.
No, but that's good. I mean, you assess the reasonableness of the requests, and these are the things that were within the comfort level of funding. And
Right.
yeah, I mean, so contrary to what I may have given the impression of earlier in this meeting, I love building the fund balance. We've had discussions with our auditor in the past, and he thinks we need to be at seven figures in our fund balance, and we're getting there. But at the same time, we can't put it all in the bank at the expense of not having what we need to do, what our core mission is to do, which is educate our kids. So I'm all for this. Does anybody else have any questions, comments, concerns, discussion? Hey, drop the flag.
No, we're good.
Good.
I already looked at it all.
Mine down here. Everybody down here?
Good.
Okay, call for the vote, please.
Aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Brings us to 10.05, winter season coach renewals. Have a motion to approve the winter season coaches.
I make a motion to separate them.
It's too late, you should have done that in the beginning.
Well, they were never ended.
No, but the four of them are all together in here. Is that what you talking about?
I don't want to vote for them all.
Well, then you have to do that in the, you should have made that motion at the modification of the agenda.
Okay, I must have messed it. I will do what I can do with what I want on here.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve 10.05?
Also move.
Okay, do I have a second? Okay, I'll second. Just because we move to vote on it doesn't mean you.
No, you're good.
Okay.
Hey,
I'm
question.
good.
Should there be middle school wrestling coach on there?
There's, I don't know what to call it.
Well, this here.
There's only 4 coaches, and these are all basketball coaches. I don't know where the wrestling coaches are
Wrestling
coming
coach
on
be
or
on there?
not.
Or is he on later?
Because of the latest of the season, that would be later on.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, we're good.
High school wrestling.
Yeah.
Same thing.
So, all right, so for the record, because these 2 fine gentlemen are on that list, they have to abstain both from discussion and voting. Do you have any discussion? You don't have to.
No, I'm good.
Mr. Smith?
Especially if you're trying to influence one way or the other, that kind of thing. Isn't that right?
Are we good?
You can't participate in discussion.
No, you can't participate in discussion.
Influence that's for you.
Right. Call for the vote, please.
I abstain, and due to the fact that I did not notify the Secretary of the State that there will not need to be a tie, I accept the result of what happened.
No.
Nay.
Aye. Motion does not carry. Okay, I have a feeling we're going to have some discussion on that soon.
I agree, seeing as how none of the winter coaches were just renewed according to this board's vote.
Yes.
That is what currently happened.
All right, 10.06 appropriations resolution. Do I have a motion to approve 10.06?
I make a motion to approve 10.06.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so this is, so when we approve the budget, we appropriate a certain amount of money. If something happens like this grant that we're about to get, we have to increase our appropriations. So this is just a correction based upon our differences in revenues and our, SOTs always comes in high, so.
And we're doing it even though money went up, but we'd also do it if money was down.
Right.
Because you would hate to have.
Right, and so if we screw up this online thing and we don't get that $107,000.
Deficit spend.
Right. And that's an issue. So last year, if you read the last audit report of the one that we just talked about earlier, there's a note in there that says we spent more than we appropriated. And some people might read that as that, hey, we went into deficit spending. We didn't. We just didn't update the appropriation for extra money that we got in during the year, so we ended up spending more, but not updating our appropriation. So that's what this is all about. I ran through the numbers. They look just right on, but, things always change, so.
Hopefully we won't have to change.
I hope not.
Actually,
it's getting late in the year to change it.
Change it again for the positive.
Right.
That means more revenue.
Right. Any questions, comments, or concerns on the appropriations resolution? Okay, call for the vote, please.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye. Okay, that brings us to information updates. Anybody have any questions for the updaters? Who wrote the kitchen one? Was it Jasmine? Did Jasmine write the kitchen? What happened to the foreman? So this is a long-standing thing. So ever since, even before Jasmine took over, she would take this large amount of information and jam it into one page.
Super small.
The print was super, super tiny and light, just like that. But in the packet today, the letters were 3/4 of an inch high and it was across 15 pages or something. I wanted to make it funny. Did you notice that? And then,
I see it on screen, so
Shell, I have a question for you. It's a total geek question. I noticed that you put in a new base station for comms, for bus drivers and all that fun stuff. What was the make and model of the base station? Oh, you got the fancy, was it a digital trunky one? Compatible with the public service radios? Right. Sweet. That's awesome.
And when we have a work session, the budget from operations, you'll see she did a really nice job of moving some things around so we can make some purchases towards safety, et cetera. So that work session would be really nice to have.
Yeah.
She did
Strategic
I
purpose.
applaud her for her work on that.
So I had a question for the operations. Track. How's that, is that going to be able to come to fruition this year, or how's it looking, or? Right.
The track curve is going in though, because that was approved by this board several years ago.
Some curbing is.
It was actually approved before I got on board.
A long time ago,
Yeah.
it was marked out.
So it's already in the works of working on that. I think you were either going to be contacted or you were contacted to try to resurface some of the donated things we might be seeing. The reason why it didn't happen at the time, you may remember the board, we had a little conflict in how it was going to be approached with somebody saying, I will port at this discount if you buy me a curb machine.
Right, remember that.
And we were kind of like, you're not going to get in that. So that's where it stopped. But we need to get it done.
Need to get it done. It was funded. It was approved by the board and it was funded.
Well, more than 5 years
And
ago.
that curve needs to go in, and that's our first step to help to get us there.
So one of the things that happened is it was all measured out. Mr. Gilbert did a lot of this to get it going. And those things, the stakes are no longer there. So we'll be doing the resurvey and we'll get the track curb put in. About 8 years ago.
I know it was more than 5 because it was before I got on the board. Yeah. Okay, Any
You know
other
what,
questions?
A
for the
district up north,
administrators?
Moreno, they got a best grant for a new track. So I'm
Just a track.
for the track.
How'd
Now
they
they got
justify
it at
that?
their level. Well, that's what I gotta find out. Not a best grant, I'm sorry, a GOCO grant.
Oh, go.
Go.
All right.
Still yet, though, GOCO has been making it a point lately, don't ask for a track, don't ask for a field. So I need to find out what his name is Rob Sanders, the super, I need to find out what he did. Did he know somebody? How did they get it? But they
He
have a new
must be a
track.
really good grant writer too, or got a really good grant writer.
Yeah. So I will be making that connection related to the track.
Okay, any other questions, comments, concerns on updates? Nothing? Okay, so that brings us to other business. I just want to say thanks for a large audience. It's always fun to have a lot of people here. Sometimes, the echo is very loud. Any other business? Mr. Swayze?
No, I'm good.
Any other business? Okay, that brings us to 13.0, adjournment.
Can we set the date? Yeah, let's set the date.
Do you want a calendar?
Oh, would you like to, okay, as other business, let's set the date.
I think it'd be a good idea.
So we should do it before June, I'm guessing, from what I'm hearing.
Be a good idea.
This is late April. How about, I gotta get to my calendar here.
Is the topic going to be the salary stuff as well as budget, or is only salary?
I think, because where we want to go with the salary, if we're inclined to start that this year, needs to be in concert with the budget. I mean, because obviously we can't
I think in my mind.
break it, right?
In my mind, not that that's always the best thing to consider, is I think it's going to be mostly the budget with some strategic finance light, because we can punch those numbers in and give us a good idea of where we're going to need to be, and we might be able to, during that whiz math, punching in numbers, especially if the candy store up in Denver comes out good for us in the legislature, and we can have a little extra, not extra, but we can have a good number to work with.
Okay, does everybody want to do this on a weekday, weekend?
That's our recommendation.
What's the track?
What's your recommendation?
So the legislative session ends on May 3rd. I'm pretty sure they ended on Friday this year. I think it's May 3rd. If we did it the next week, I would have all the numbers to plug in our budget. So that we're talking about real numbers now and what we
Yeah, right.
So perhaps, like the.
Now the question, do people have a preference for weekday, weekend,
Wednesday,
Wednesday the 8th.
Wednesday the 8th?
as long as there's no games or anything.
May.
Sounds like a...
Yeah, that is senior school award tonight at 6 o'clock.
Okay, so that's not going to work.
Okay. Tuesday the 7th of May.
That is available on the district calendar.
Okay, what Tuesday is that? Is that the second or the first?
This is the first Tuesday.
I'm good then. I'm good with that.
At what time?
Well, now times, I'm thinking,
Tuesdays and Thursdays from 6:30 PM to 8:30 PM, I have a prayer tonight.
okay,
That's why I'm asking.
I guess that's not.
so you need to be out by 6 to get to where you're going for 6:30?
And if we did it at the high school,
How about
we
Monday?
could go to 6:25 and it would be outside.
Oh, okay. So
How
you're
about
close.
Monday? Because I got a
We're trying to
JOB.
make it where the community come to.
Yeah. That's
Probably
good.
not a good idea on the weekend, probably ought to be done on the weekend.
Oh,
or at
that's what I
night.
was thinking.
Set it up at night, 5 to midnight. Hey, they talk a lot, you guys have to. I mean, look at the time. And I'll bet you half of that time was because these guys talked.
But then
It
that's
was
a
not.
Actually, this is pretty good.
This is
Yeah,
good.
time.
Are you back to the Monday or are you still on the Tuesday?
If you
We haven't decided.
If you do a
decided.
weekend, I'm going to be gone on May 10th. That's my son's graduation from college day. That's a Friday, and I'll be coming back on that Saturday afternoon.
What about the 5th?
Sunday?
Sunday.
That's probably too soon.
We have Black
That's Cinco
Forest
de
League
Mayo,
track.
we can't be messing with Cinco de Mayo.
We have the Black Forest League track meet.
Track meet?
He said he's going to be gone May 10th, but he said that's when they're coming in for the drive around for the fire.
Oh.
So is that what you're going to be gone for, is?
I'm leaving that later that day. I will get that corrected. I will have them here, I promise you. I have my whole speech ready to go.
Well, you
try
thinking?
it. Well, I'm thinking let's just try to discuss it.
May
present
4th?
an option, and then send it out when it all works for us instead of sitting here for.
Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. Terry, you're not gonna get to put anything in your calendar. Okay, I'm gonna,
Just open it.
send an email and ping all the board members and the superintendent. But they have to go check, like, I don't have my work calendar.
Oh, you don't? Oh,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Because there may be an opportunity for me to take off during the week
Yeah.
early, so maybe we could do it at like 4 in the afternoon, but I won't know that.
Right, let's just allow that to.
Right, so tomorrow, please check your calendar, send me an email. I will do the mapping, figure out when the windows are, and say, these are the windows, please vote for one. Oh, okay.
It's all on the interactive calendar, so if you're planning, you can just look on the website.
We can all kind of coordinate together to give a best guesstimate what's going
Right.
to work with everybody.
Yeah, so let's do that. It's probably better than talking about it for a while here. Okay. Any other business? Okay, it brings us to 13.0, motion for adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So made.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, meeting adjourned. You said I have a bunch of stuff to sign, Miss Irene?